What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. Cheers. Hope you're all doing good. 2025 coming at you. Hopefully it's a good one. And yeah, we're starting it off right here with an album club and got the usual suspects. TJ isn't going to make it tonight. Sorry, everybody. Apologies for that. Logan, we'll start with you. Happy New Year. How you doing?
Doing good. It was a good New Year, good quiet night in, which is great. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but crazy shit in New Orleans in the
I didn't catch the whole thing. I heard it happened.
Thoughts go out to all of them and the fellow New Orleanian people as they're kind of recovering from that. It's crazy.
Terrible.
So, it was good New Year's. Happy it was a quiet one, truthfully.
Yeah.
Let's see. As for spinning, man, this was as planned, I'm sure, and out of my comfort zone week. Well done, Marty. To kind of piece it all together, I was trying to listen to more power metal records in general. I actually took to the Heavy Metallurgy Discord server. Check it out. It's pretty awesome. And I asked for recommendations of what other albums can help me unpack this Masterplan record. Marty,
I did not see that. I would have helped you out. I didn't see that. I have a hard time following it all the time.
I use the right
busy.
channel and everything, Marty.
I know.
You should own that thing.
It's busy. Hard to keep up with.
But there were a couple good recommendations there from Devin and the raccoon guy and stuff. And I spun Helloween, Master of the Rings. Drink. I liked it. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
Storm Warrior, Heading North.
Mm-hmm.
I like the heavy metal. Good, good straightforward vibe there. And then I was kind of revisiting some power metal albums that I think are good enough. I want to buy. Living in Hysteria by Heaven's Gate was awesome. Like a little bit more hard rock and barely just catchy choruses on that one. And then Flashback, first album I was a part of for Metallurgy, Defying the Rules by Hybria. I gave that a spin, and it was awesome. Other than power metal, though, I was trying to get a little more mellow death in there. This is Scar Symmetry with their third album, I think, Holographic Universe. Death Jovi is the vocalist or whatever. I don't remember his name, but he's one hell of a vocalist right here. Good balance between clean singing and the death metal growls. And then was a part of a BS stream on Jeff's Gas Mask and Hand Grenades channel last night. And we were talking about Over for a little bit. Put me in the mood to listen to some just chill Over. Kind of brought the new year in with a chill vibe, which I was fine with. So there we go.
All right. Good to see you. Kellen, welcome. How are you?
Doing all right. I've spent it's been a very low key sort of past week, and a whole lot of YouTube time. But I've had the
I know the feeling
stream on album club, and then I followed that up on Saturday with a little bit of thing on my own channel. So it's been a whole lot of time sitting down in front of a camera, and this past weekend, I needed to, get out of the house. And so I had a long run situated for Sunday, and I was out and I got caught in the middle of a storm. So I actually don't have a physical copy of this, but I think Jim brought this up on the end of year stream, and I think gave you a little bit of a hard time in not having it in your collection, Marty, which is the Them mod.
Oh yeah.
It was like the day started and it was like overcast and rainy, and I was going to be out for like 2-3 hours. It was the perfect just sort of like cruise and let it listen kind of record. But so yeah, I was just kind of listening to, I don't want to call it like more atmospheric or easy listening black metal, but if it was just sort of lightly raining, it was the perfect kind of record. And that brought back one that I still, a lot of people talk about this band in a negative light, and to some degree just because of, I think, the culture they introduced to the genre
and their popularity. The black
Yeah,
metal
their
scene hates popularity. Yeah.
But man, like I was caught out on the back like hour and a half of my run bringing this home, and I have so much nostalgia with Two Hunters. Like I just got done with school, and I had this job in between, my next stage in life. So I had to get up at like 5 a.m. and walk myself to the bus stop because I didn't have a car. And I put on my headphones, and it was like the dark of Oregon, right? Like January, February, this time of year. And it was just raining and cold. It was like the perfect Pacific Northwest mood. So to this album's credit, it is like 100% that place for me. And back in 2007, I was 22 going on 23. Man, I listened to this nonstop that winter. But say what you want to say about this band. I still love this record and have a lot of nostalgia with it.
Yeah, Will's rules, man. I don't care what anyone says.
Agreed.
And then I did on my stream, man. I've kind of been going back and falling in love with this band. So I did like a important or bands that have meant a lot to me, or that I keep on returning to due to the consistency of their work over the past decade, was sort of the theme of my stream. And this band never sort of like blew up by any means, and part of it was their absence. But I kind of been reacquainting myself with the Phobocosm discography. They're just 3 full lengths. This one came out in 2023, but I really enjoyed this record, and I've kind of been thinking about sort of this past year we got a Mitochondrion full length, and that was the kind of Canadian extreme metal that they were grouped in with at the time, back in around 2010. Their first record comes out in 2014, but it was that scene, and this band now to me sounds totally different than that. I mean, I guess they're a little bit of like a modern death metal, but it's just super heavy, and it's been fun sort of pulling these back off the shelf after and listening to them, in a dedicated way. Just those 3 records. So I've been listening to a lot of Phobocosm.
All right. Very cool. Jim, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Thanks, man. It's going great. I've definitely got the Sunday scaries on a Wednesday as my first. I've been working through the holidays, but a full day back at work tomorrow. So trying to combat that here with some discussion of metal tonight.
Yeah, right.
So Blind Guardian, obviously a good prep for this. My power metal collection is pretty much just Blind Guardian and Helloween. So anything outside of that is a journey for me. I do love Lost Horizon too, but I don't own it. But yeah, it's really, early Helloween and, Blind Guardian is where it got. So anyway, this is a classic. I absolutely love this record. I'll never get tired of it. It's so great. And then for something completely different, doing some Cro-Mags, Age of Quarrel.
Nice. Great album.
Harley Flanagan. Obviously took over vocals on the albums after this one, but the guy, what's the guy's name who sings on this one, Marty? He's got a weird name, like
Joseph.
I can't remember now. He has a funny nickname, but anyway, classic crossover record. I think it's a must own if you like the genre, and I do. So, Cro-Mags.
Isn't it John Joseph? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, it might be. I'll look it up here in a second, but it's. I remember he's got like a funny kind of a nickname. But anyway, he does a great job on the vocals. Just everything. I mean, this is just a perfect crossover album here, and I think it's a must if you like the genre even a little bit.
John Joseph. Yep.
Yeah. Also, I picked up SOD, Stormtroopers of Death. Great riffs on here. I gotta say though, I'm not sure the humor doesn't really hasn't aged well. You know what I mean?
No.
Like listening, it just kind of bugs me now. The lyrics now. I mean, when I was a teenager, it didn't bug me so much, but now they kind of bug me. But the riffs are awesome. The riffs have stayed awesome. So other than that, little bit Exciter to get ready for the night. Long live the loud, baby.
Love that album. Yeah.
I think that intro at the beginning of the song Fallout, man, like it's if you go back and listen to it now, Marty, like it sounds like a little bit like Viking era Bathory now, the way it comes in. Like go back and like just that first 2 minutes, and I was like, wait, that's really cool. Also, dude, I mean, side 1 is heavy, side 2 is metal.
Perfect.
I love that, dude. So yeah, definitely always something good on the rosters, and looking forward to talking about the album tonight.
Right on. Well, for me, I've been listening to some stuff that I plan on reviewing here in the coming weeks, so I've been trying to do a little homework there. Nothing to report there yet. This has been floating around in the car, The Cosmic Race by Scanner, their most recent. Great album, bad drummer, bad drum production, but it's a really good album. And of course, spinning the crap out of this thing over and over, and I even got into the second one a little bit, Aeronautics. So yeah, they've been very master planned here lately, which brings us to the album tonight. We're talking about the first Masterplan album. It came out in 2023 on AFM Records, which it came out on January 20th, 2003. So it's almost 21 years old. And a little bit of info. Roland, Grapow, and Kusch, who both started this band, were left Helloween during the Dark Ride tour in 2001. It says here the other Helloween members felt the two were more focused on their side project Masterplan than Helloween at the time. Both were later fired from the band. I've heard different stories about why they were fired, but whatever. The first full-length self-titled Masterplan was released in 2003, produced by Andy Sneap. The band then consisted of Grapow and Kusch and Jørn Lande. Talked about the keyboardist. It was supposed to be the guy from Children of Bodom. He couldn't make it. I think Kusch and Grapow did most of that stuff themselves. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'm not going to read through all of it, but Russell Allen from Symphony X was supposedly asked first to be in the band. He couldn't because he was busy with Symphony X. Michael Kiske was asked to be in the band, and he rejected the proposal, claiming that he wanted to keep away from the metal scene, which is funny because he sings on this album. He sings one duet with Jørn for the song Heroes. Yeah, so we're just going to get right into this album. Let's talk about your first impression. We'll start with the young buck.
All right, yeah. So, big disclaimer, as everyone I'm sure knows, I am not a power metal guy. This is something that I guess we're working on.
Work in progress.
Well, it's work in progress. So, I will probably not be as knowledgeable with like the whole scene and naming members and stuff. Like I went ahead and just like looked at who the singer was and already forgot his name. So
Jørn Lande.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'll be asking for tons of reference checks like that. But I can't help but feel like an asshole every time I start to dive into a power metal album and really like just initially hear it, because my gut reaction and my first instinct is nope.
Yep.
Nope. I'm out. Like with the opening song Spirit Never Dies or whatever, when it like opens up fine and it's building and like the keys and the guitar and all the drums are just kind of powerful going at it, and then it all just drops out and he starts singing about his hometown. Nope. I'm out. What are we doing? And then the verse kind of continues. He's talking about driving in a fast car and being a rock star. That's literally the rhyme he chooses. Nope.
Yep.
Nope. So on first spin, I had to stop myself from being an asshole a couple times, and I definitely noticed. Is this technically like a symphonic power metal album more so than just a power metal? It's just such a mid pace. It's like very mid paced.
It kind of leads into my question next, because I think it's I think it's got an anchor in power metal, but I think it's an atypical power metal album.
Well, I'm curious because we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, for me, I was surprised at how symphonic it was. I was like, oh, this must be symphonic power metal. And overall, it's just very mid-paced. I was like looking for some speed and some, I mean, not aggression, but something a bit more fast-paced. And it really only got there in like 2 songs. So I was definitely scratching my head and still saying no after the first spin. So that's kind of where I was left off.
Right on. Kellen.
I'm so happy that was the line. Like, because just so people know, when we ended the top of the top 10 thing, you're talking to the dugout afterwards. And Logan said something like, I really don't know about this Masterplan record. There's something about the lyrics of the first is kind of weird. He's talking about his hometown and people. I think Alan was like, it's not supposed to be a Bryan Adams album or something like that. And I was like, how bad could this really be? Right? It's his power metal record. It's leaning into the cheese a little bit. And Logan was 100% right. The lyrics to this first song, so it felt to me like a Pokemon theme song, like the like the rhyme scheme was so bad. And so the first part is, you get to the chorus and it's never give up, never give in, if you're gonna win. I was like, this is a professional band with an incredible amount of heritage. I can't believe this is happening. And then it's the way he says the second verse. It's like the way it all locks in together. I got a fast car like a rock star. And
by the way, he does not sound like that. Not even close. Not even close to that.
When he got halfway
Holy
through
shit.
that like a rock star line, like I was like, he's not going to. Like I felt the world slowed down, and I thought to myself, he is not going to finish this line with Rockstar, is he? Please do not finish this lyric with Rockstar. I got a fast car. Like please, for the love of God, do not say Rockstar. Rockstar. And
doesn't sound like that.
100%. He's like not singing.
Might as well.
He's breathing it into it's this weird sort of creepy, anyway, like AOR cool guy thing. And I was like, Logan is 100% on point with why the initial impression listening to this album would be so abhorrent.
I'm going to need this beer tonight, I think.
So all of that. So what I'm trying to set up is like, and when we talk about the songwriting and the track lists, the first 2 songs on this record were by far the hardest for me. That setup is just so like egregiously. I can't believe the lyrics to this. It is so predictable and sophomoric, and like I couldn't. So I kind of stopped and I walked away, and I was like, this might be the hardest record that Marty has brought to Album Club for me. But we got to the 3rd track and the story changed, and it was there's a whole lot to sort of unpack, and I really like what Marty's question is going to be for tonight. But the first impression, and I'm literally talking about the opening 10 minutes of this album, were nails on a chalkboard, uncomfortable. I stopped and like pulled Corinne into the room to be like, you've got to listen to this shit, because it is absolutely hilarious. She's looking at me like, Marty picked this. So anyway, she
was probably turned on a little bit. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I get it. It's fine. Probably not. But it's funny, the lyrics. Yeah, you get to a song like Crystal Night, which is kind of like the whole Crystal Knox.
The opening, that first track. The lyrics are just, I can't believe the rest of this record, as much as it's uplifting and so on and so forth. Like, I get it. That's kind of the genre we're playing in. That being said, this should not have been your opening track. You needed to hide this thing towards the end of the record. And I don't know what was going on Metal Archives, because everyone who loves this band loves this song. They're like, by far the best track is track number 1. So I need to get off this and let Jim share his thoughts, but that was my impression.
Right on. Jim.
Thank you, guys. I don't have to say anything about that line now.
But the funny thing is, you guys got stuck on a lyrical phrase. Were you listening to how he was singing it and the music behind it? Because it's very good. It's very good.
I will tell you, Marty. I will tell you that after multiple spins, I actually, I kind of got a kick out of it after a while. I was like singing along with it. I got a fast car, like a rock star. I was like,
the spirit never dies.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so good.
I definitely, for me, it's a huge faux pas for any metal band to even use the word rock in there. Like I've always hated like them being compared like in song, like a metal band using the word rock or rock and roll or whatever. It's always bugged the hell out of me, And so that was really it was annoying to me at first, but I got over it. It actually, like I said, after a while, I just kind of, that's kind of got with the program. That said, enlighten me, dude. I am with you, Kellen. What that is? Oh my God, dude! That
awesome.
Sounds like a '90s pop metal song.
Awesome.
Enlighten me, it sounds like '90s new metal, like that like really earnest, emotional, "I love you, baby," radio metal thing. I was just, it even has the going on background, but not in the neoclassical way. In the like I don't know, Go-Go's or way. It just wasn't for me at all, and I was like, oh dude, what is happening here? A really rough first impression after those first 2 songs. That said, the third song started to change it for me, and it's a much better. So I was actually able to get through the album and kind of take a deeper dive into it. Really appreciate the guitar work on here. The drum work that is like, understated, but very solid to the point. Like it's so solid, like to your point, Kellen, it's professional, just very professional level playing. Not flashy, but absolutely in the pocket.
Tasteful. Holy crap.
Yeah. Very tasteful. The fills
all
are just,
service to the song. All
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a great production. So there were things that sort of like pulled it back from the brink for me, and I was able to latch onto, despite some of the the lyrical kind of stumbles here, and then you got Jørn, who's very earnest, singing anything. So it kind of helped it a lot. So yeah, we'll get into deeper in the whys and stuff later, but yeah, that first impressions was I was really scared, but it turned around for me.
Yeah, and all fair enough. We're joking, we're laughing, we're teasing here, but it's for me the first impression. The first time I heard this was in a Zoller box. Every year he sends me a bunch of CDs that he doesn't want to keep, and I was blown right away. Jørn Lande's vocals are, he's like the second coming of Dio. There's some vocal performance on here, the grit in his voice, the way at the end of songs when he's vamping, it's like saying stuff really soulfully as the song's fading out. That reminds me of like Stargazer. It reminds me of all the great Dio performances. But he doesn't just live in that realm. He can smooth out his voice. He can, I don't know. He could take it up really, really high. Which song was it? Towards the end, Into the Light. His highest, really super clean, high register he throws in on the chorus is amazing. The range he has, and not only the range, but he can add fry to his voice when he wants to, when he needs to, and he can clean it up when the song calls for it. And I'm a huge fan of Helloween, obviously, and Roland is he was the guy that filled in. They got him on the job after Kai left, so he was in the band since 1989, and he fit right in. He had all the Darius stuff. He's a great songwriter, and you can hear elements of that on this album. So instantly, I'm hooked. The songs are so catchy, and again, there isn't, Uli Kusch is an amazing drummer, and Roland's an amazing guitar player, but again, they're not showboating here. It's a very patient album, if you will. It's like they really lean back and say, our singer is this great. We're going to put a very cool canvas underneath him. It's a simple at times, a little more complex, but our singer's going to pull the weight of these songs. And man, does he. He just it's like he's singing like someone lit him on fire at times. It's amazing. But leads us to our question here. Having both spent considerable time in the ranks of Helloween, Roland Grapow and Uli Kusch emerged from the institution of that groundbreaking power metal band to create something that does indeed have its anchor in power metal, but there is something else at work here that makes it feel a bit more atypical than your carbon copy metal band. What do you think that is, if you even noticed it at all? Does it even matter if it perfectly fits within the confines of a genre to be accepted?
So, hey, let's see. As I said, not familiar with all the tropes of power metal, especially in like the early 2000s. Like what was expected of this. I mean, when I listen to this, it sounds like what I would think a symphonic power metal album would be. But I think I will say that because of the mid-pace feel, and it really does feel like they're focused more on almost just writing rock music. You guys already mentioned like the 90s alternative vibe, which I picked up on that too from Enlighten Me. It actually makes me think of that Paradise Lost era where they went a bit of that like industrial 90s rock. There's a song that it reminds me of off of one of their albums. And just in general, I think it sounds a bit more hard rock focused as an album. And it definitely seems like that they're willing to go wherever they need to go for the song. Because at the same time where we have Enlighten Me, we do have songs that are, a bit more upbeat and actual like power metal, like, Crawling
songs
from Hell, Heroes. And they're just writing the tracks that they want to write about. So for whatever reason, the guy wanted to write about his fast car, and that's what they did. And I think it helps. I think it helps me like the album a bit more, and it does feel a bit more unique. Like there were the power metal tropes and stereotypes that I kind of guessed were going to be here, but then there was other stuff, other elements too, which I really grew to appreciate. So I think bands should be more like this and be more adventurous with their songwriting, and I think it helps forge an identity that's kind of unique for a band versus sticking with a already a sound with boundaries and then basically being lumped in automatically with a dozen other bands. I hate to mention another band, a band that's currently doing this, but Blood Incantation. I think they're an example of a modern band who are kind of just doing what they want with their influences and trying to create the song that they want to create with, like they've always wanted to write a Pink Floyd jam. And on this one, they basically did. And I don't know, I think it works. I wish more bands would explore outside of the accepted tropes of a genre. And I'll give it to Masterplan. I think they do a good job of bringing different elements in to make this a more interesting listen than just a power metal listen. So I hope I answered the question.
Oh yeah. Kellen.
Yeah, so I think it's within the confines of the genre. For me, they take the AOR radio side of things and make it a little bit more prominent. Like they don't do choruses in the same way that I'm reminded by a lot of European power metal. There's something else going on. His vocal style, Jørn has, to your point about him stepping in for Dio, there's like something about that sort of vamping or improvising on a phrase. Like he'll get to an end of a line and he'll have some fun with it. The fact that they asked the singer, I forget the name from Symphony X, you brought him up earlier.
Russ.
But the reason I reference that is he's got a much bluesier voice.
Russell Allen.
Thank you, Russell Allen. Yeah,
And
so
actually, Russell Allen and Landa have like 4 albums out together. It's called Allen Landa or whatever. Yeah, they've done 4 albums together. Yeah,
which I think lends itself to a bit more of like a rock sort of like that AOR sound. It doesn't have sort of European polish that I associate with European power metal. So I think between having like that kind of a vocal style, and giving so much freedom for the personality to sort of dominate the sound of the band, that shows a certain kind of restraint away from traditional European power metal. The second part of it is, like Symphony X, I really enjoyed the Conception record, Parallel Minds, I listened to this past year. And they have this 90s, I guess technically 2000s, when power metal started to gain a little bit of a heavier guitar tone away from like the 1980s speed metal thing. Mm-hmm. And I felt it a little bit when we listened to Lost Horizon. There's something in the weight of this record in terms of the guitar production that feels a little bit more modern.
Andy Sneap, it's kind of his stamp of approval.
Signature tone, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm driving at is like there are sort of fractional elements to their sound that are pulling from different sort of disparate parts of European power metal. But when you sort of amplify those fractional differences into a single band, I think it all operates within the confines of the genre, but it does not make it for a typical or predictable European power metal listen. So part of that is the time period in which it emerges, and part of it is sort of the elements within the band that they sort of lean into it to a greater extent. I very much agree that, to your point, it's a unique power metal listen if you go into it looking for another Blind Guardian record or another Helloween record. So that's sort of be like my sort of take on, I think, of how the band, yes, they sound different, but it's 100% within the confines of what this genre has to offer.
Right on. Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I this is absolutely power metal with some different items, but what those different items are, for me, are like the weaker points on the listen. I feel like there's definitely the mid to late 90s, like alternative / new metal vibe going on here with like some, like there's the down-tuned riff on which one is that? Is it Bleeding Eyes?
That's a favorite part. That's Crystal Night, right?
No, it's on.
Crystal Night's definitely. I think that song's awesome. I think
that song.
But Bleeding Eyes has that kind of da 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 da.
Bleeding Eyes.
Tuned down.
It sounds like a lost track from The Dark Ride, which is Helloween tuned down. They tuned down on that album, and that's the album he got kicked out after.
Right. Well, I just I like all kinds of music, and I like some really cheesy non-metal music, but I don't really want like that style put into like my metal genres that I like. So for me, like throwing that sort of like vibe into there just seems kind of awkward and forced. So I don't know that it for me. And also, I should have said this at the beginning. Like Logan, and like Logan said, I'm not a big power metal guy. I did say I pretty much only listen to Blind Guardian and Helloween, which is accurate. But so maybe like this is more of a common occurrence in early 2000s power metal, or maybe this is more accepted. I don't know, but for me, it just seems, because of the power metal I listen to, not that I'm a connoisseur at all, because I'm not. It's probably one of my least listened to launch genres, but I don't hear any of that. Like it's a neoclassical vibe throughout, right? And that vocal presence, the lyrical content, the way the vibrato is delivered in more kind of an operatic tone. The guitar tones are usually tuned to E standard, really clean. So it just stood out to me. Like that's a vocal line that sounds modern to me, or that's a riff that sounds like modern mainstream metal to me, and that's just not anything I ever hear or have heard on the albums that I listen to. I don't listen to. I haven't heard mid-period Helloween very much. I heard a little bit of it. I like the new album because Marty was like, "You gotta listen to this," and I did, and I think it's great. I meant to buy it, I just never got around to it. But I do think that one's good. But really, for me, it's like the first 3 Helloween albums, and then pretty much anything by Blind Garden, and so that's kind of where this record fits for me. Like, it is power metal, but I don't know that those elements it helped them, and it might have helped them in terms of sales and some professional notoriety but it just it's when they stick to what they do best musically on this record, and in terms of like the power metal, maybe I'm boring, but I think that's where they're strong, is when they stick to the formula, if you will. And what keeps it from still not being boring or still unique, and I think it could have been unique without those other elements, is Jørn's voice, man. He's got a great, fantastic voice. When he gets like when he delivers more power, he sounds more like Dio, and he's got that grit in there, and it keeps it from sounding like too polished. And that grit in his vocal, I think, like really centers this album and the band itself. And on the verses, I like what Mike said, that he sounds like David Coverdale, and I get what Marty's saying too, kind of like Foreigner. But yeah, he's got that sort of like, more of a bluesier kind of a tone, which isn't like, doesn't happen too often in power metal. And I think that works. That sort of innovative choice outside of like the neoclassical norm works, but the other ones, I think musically don't, lyrically. Yeah. We can have some laughs about that, but just talking about the music, like, I those same elements that kind of stand out to make Masterplan different, which to me are these more like alternative metal elements, were unnecessary. But the album itself can stand on its own without it.
Yeah, I think Roland could have come out of Helloween, and I mean, obviously he was a big contributor to Helloween, and he could have went into the Masterplan and said, I'm just going to write what I write, and it could have sounded like Helloween. And there are elements of that here. You can hear some riffs in the background, some layering, some harmonies, or some melody lines, and the 7-string guitar and Bleeding Eyes. It's like, it's there. But one thing that they were very conscious of is this album is not plastered with double bass. It's not. There's towards the end, there's a song that's faster, has double bass on it, but they made a conscious decision to write a largely mid-paced record, which right away, European power metal, you're living and dying on that fast double bass, those speed metal-ish riffs and the twin guitar lines. There really isn't any of that here. And another thing they do to set it apart from traditional or like symphonic power metal is their choice of not only the keyboard sounds, but how the keyboards are used in the music. They're very upfront. At times they introduce a riff or a melody line in a song, whereas you look at bands like Twilight Force, it's just layers of symphonic keyboards that provide all this atmosphere in the background. Here it's more of an upfront thing, and it kind of gives it more of a commercial slant, which you say yuck all you want. I mean, it's still mixed with a metal context. And you have such a fantastic singer driving steering the ship here. It's like, I can overlook some of the commercialisms if it's a really well-written song. And if you listen to these songs, there's nothing out of place. These songs are start to finish very well constructed. There's no, ooh, what's that? Or, ooh, weird transition. It's perfect. They're perfect. Some of the songs have a different vibe to them as well. So I get a little bit of rock. I get a little bit of alternative music mixed in here. All the while, they again are anchored to the metal thing, and which I respect. But it could be, a chorus of people farting together, and as long as Landa's singing over it, dude, he really gets into my brain on this. His performance on this entire album is so emotional and so good. I just can't get sick of these songs. The choruses are so well suited. The music is so well suited to the strengths in his voice. You start talking about, that's a reason why I'm a John Bush. Everybody, John Bush, great singer. He's never been in a band that gives him an avenue to be something special. He always struck me as vanilla wafers, just like the music and all the bands he's been in. I'm sorry. Armored Saint, Anthrax, Category 7 or 9, the new thing he's in. He's a great singer. It's just very monotone, very bland. Lande, he's one of those singers. He's very dynamic, has a great range, and it's a atypical power metal vocal style. It's not it's not doing any of that crap. It's very of the earth vocal style, and there's a lot of elements at play here that I think people just kind of subconsciously give it a pass of, the pedigree of the people in the band. But it's not a traditional European power metal album to me. I think it fits in the scene. I think it fits. But it's doing a lot of different stuff, and at the core of it is just very much well-written, solid, excellent musicianship, fantastic vocalist. Let's discuss the musicality and composition of Masterplan. Logan.
All right, so now to kind of dive into my full journey with this album, so yeah, the first 3 listens were all just varying levels of, no, and probably, issue with the first 10 minutes, opening 10 minutes of the song. Like, I definitely had picked out a song or two that I was like, all right, this is going to be my, favorite song on the album. The one that I'm like, oh yeah, this album does have good elements in it. But first 3 listens, I was ready to finally have a negative review for Metallurgy. I was happy to prove that, I wasn't positive about everything and I could dislike something.
Of course.
So, but then I woke up, and this was actually yesterday morning. I woke up and like all of Enlighten Me was stuck in my head, and I start my morning routine with it, and like my first gut reaction went from being no to being like, oh, cool, and
like, look at the disappointment on Kellen's face right now.
I'm disappointed in myself, honestly. I went from, so before my listening experience was forcing myself to find things I liked about this album. And then on listen number 4, I switched to trying to find things that I didn't like about this album to remind myself that I don't like power metal. I don't like it because of this, this, and this. So I was looking for stuff not to like.
I used to be the same way. I'm just going to put that out there.
When
I was your age, I was the same way. 100%.
Yeah. Thank you. And
what the hell I like this crap. This stuff is stupid. Crap.
Yeah. It's like looking at myself in the mirror. I don't want to.
Who are you?
Hello, me. Don't like power metal.
We'll check back in when you at 40 and see if you're like loving the power metal.
Oh, God.
There's this guy named Marty back in the day. He's dead now, but he was right about everything.
A Renaissance man, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely it opened up a bit more, and I think it is because of the choruses and the vocal performance and the fact that everything is tailored to him. Like the songs are indeed tailored to him, and for the most part, you can go the whole album and not necessarily notice the other instruments as much outside of the symphonic elements. Like for me, it's the vocals and then the keyboards and like the symphony or whatever, Pro Tools digital music that they use to flesh out their songs. Those are like the 2 strong points, really. And yeah, it's just an infectious, catchy album kind of at its core, and it's really I think it's more of a hard rock album than a power metal hard rock. It's so mid-paced, and that was one of the issues I had with it originally. I'm like, why are these songs just plodding, not like galloping and speeding off to battle and stuff like that? I will say, I was expecting certain power metal stereotypes here, and they are. There's this is a Disney record or a Pokemon record. That's a new one. I like that. It's got that vibe sometimes. There are ballads.
A lot of power metal has a ballad.
I was expecting ballads, and they delivered.
Yeah.
with some doozies, if I do say so. And they do kind of rely on a trope, and it kind of started to annoy me a little bit. The song opens up, it's like fast and powerful, and you got the guitar and the keys and, conjunction trying to create this epic feel. And then it all just disappears for, the singer to do his magic, but it's just like the bass and the drums and just nothing else. And they like
that felt like a Man-O-War thing to me. I felt a little Man-O-War-ish on that part. You're singing about up the metal torch thing, and it's just like, yeah, all right, okay, cool.
That's a line I can get behind.
He did not say that here. They did that every song though. I got a little tired of that, like, and here the music's gonna drop out and it's just him crooning about, a woman who broke his heart or something, and I think they could have varied that up just a little bit. And when they do, those are some of my favorite songs, I think, that really do get a little bit more adventurous. And there are some on there that actually like build as a song, like Soulburn. That's, I think,
good song.
Great track. And one that I think shows a bit more creativity in building the song versus relying on the same power metal trope. So yeah, overall, I warmed up to this album, and there were still like the glaring issues that I have with power metal here, and I think those will ultimately be something I still have a problem with as we get to like judgment, final thoughts. But
sure,
I am definitely overall positive on the musicality and the composition of this.
Really, someone mentioned Whitesnake, and they're really not wrong. If you play the self-titled Whitesnake album, then play this album, they're really not. They're on the same playing field for sure. Sure.
Those sections where it's just him singing, and it makes me think definitely of like an 80s or some kind of hard rock band that could write a ballad for sure.
Yep. All right, Kellen.
So first two songs, notwithstanding, it was when we finally get to Kind-Hearted Light, that was the turning point for me. So the songwriting here, I think when you're talking about it being a just very well written, well paced, structured record overall, there's nothing about these songs like, I don't like the emotional tenor of the first couple. They're just a little bit too commercial, radio friendly for me. But what I do want to say about it is this record flows. Once I got past like sort of the shock of the first two songs, the rest of it actually plays out very well. And I guess I didn't really think about it until I got to the production where I was trying to tune into specific instruments, but none of the instruments here really dominate the listen. There's this great tasteful solo work going on. I mean, sure, and there's solid drumming, but I never felt that instrumentally there was a part of this band that sort of dominated your attention. Mm-hmm. It was very much a vocalist-centered record. But when we got the two tracks that I think are the smoothest and probably a little bit more familiar to me, where I kind of thought, like, okay, I'm on board here, were Kind-Hearted Light and Sail On. I don't know if Mel is still in the chat, but she mentioned Sail On early. Mm-hmm. For me, those tracks, they're like, okay, I'm familiar with this kind of songwriting, this kind of power metal, like 100%, like I'm on board with what this record's about. I think as a vocalist, I liked his performance most on Soulburn. I think he gets the chance to flex. It's a slower paced track.
Heavy as shit too.
It's a heavier, like the guitar tuning, to your point. I think, when Jim mentioned how they're tuning their guitars at this point in time, there's a weight here, but I think when you slow down the overall sort of pacing of the track, and he gets a little more breathing room, his sort of ability to sort of take a phrase and play with it, I think that's a strength of his and works well. Though the track that, like, I was in my car when I first heard Crystal Night, and there's like a Heil in the middle of it. And I was like, hey, what's going on here?
Crystal Night, Crystal Knock. It was, yeah.
Right. It's referring to the in 1938, right?
It was like a raid. The Germans went through and destroyed all these Jewish businesses.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's telling the story, but it's it's criminalizing it as it should.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Right.
not
It's like a
It's not
cautionary tale.
praising
This
it.
is
It's
the
not
past.
praising it, right? Yes.
Don't take
Yeah.
it to the future.
Just
Yeah.
to clarify,
denigrating the occurrence. Yeah.
yes, it's not like it is just trying to highlight a time period in German history that they're being critical of.
Yep.
Um,
Which is a far cry from a rock star superstar car.
yes, yes.
Speed racer.
But once, I mean, the lyrical content is different, but the way the song, I think it's incredible. They do a great job, specifically with the drumming and the double bass work in there. They judiciously use it, so you don't hear how prominent or powerful the kicks are throughout the first the verse and chorus for the early part of the song. Then you get like a break and a solo. When it comes back, you get the double kicks, and then to finish the song, you get a sort of backbeat snare. So they understand from the beginning that track is built. They know what the end point is in terms of the drumming performance and how they segment that out. It took me a little bit to sort of like organize it, but I felt it. Like, here's how the pacing. Okay, the next phrases go to this pace. The next portion is supposed to go at this pace. I felt the momentum of that song. I thought it was a really great way about, instead of just using traditional power metal where you have rolling double bass, if you can try and find places to withdraw it as an instrument, only to layer it in later on in the song. I thought it was a great case in terms of restraint and then sort of letting things go at the end of the song. So really great way to write a song in terms of a drumming perspective. So I think that's a highlight. I mean, to your point, Logan brought up the later tracks. Crawling from Hell probably feels like the most aggressive, sort of thrashier element. So at the heart of this record, sort of through the middle of it, there's a very slow sort of acoustic, I want to say, song and Into the Light. But the middle of this record, I think there's some great songwriting chops. And while it's like I have to swallow something incredibly painful to begin this record in order for it to sort of, once it gets, I finally get a chance to take it all in. The rest of the record actually, I think, is a really sort of good case in how to approach what is sort of an AOR centered power metal record. And that band, I can't really complain about sort of like the seamlessness and coherency of the songwriting here.
Right on. Jim.
Yeah, I mean, Kellen nailed it.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Really did. Crystal Knight, absolutely, perfect songwriting on that. I have my notes too about the drum work on that, so I won't, reiterate any of that. But, it's a heavier song. It's, the only ding I have on that track is he plays like a blues influenced solo on that one, and I just felt like that was out of place given the heaviness of the song in general, the content of the song lyrically. Like the blues solo didn't fit for me. I think I would have really liked for him to play more of his neoclassical style on that, but he does. The blues solo is still well executed. You know what I mean? And so spanning outward, I mean. All these songs are well executed. They're all well written. They all make sense. It's just the first two tracks especially, and the second to the last one, which I mentioned before, Bleeding Eyes. Those three songs all dip into genres that I don't really care for. Or at least not in the context of metal. But the way the vocal lines are layered, rhythmically, to Marty's point about the way the synths interact with Jørn's vocals, and not just vocals, but the melody lines of the guitar, the way that they have this like melodic counterpoint to the things that he's doing, and the melody lines of the guitar themselves that are very memorable, very catchy, as anyone who was able to play Helloween should be. I mean, those guys require a high level of not just capability, but a deep understanding and a high level of understanding for how to incorporate melody lines, from a riff and a soloing perspective, and into a song, and to really help that be like the driving force of the song that a listener takes away from it once they're done. That is all over this record, even on the songs that I don't like. I mean, these guys are really professional at what they do, as they should be, given their pedigree. And, Andy Sneap, love him or hate him, he's a great producer. He came from a great band.
Yeah.
Sabat's a great band. I'm not saying everything he's ever produced is great, but he knows what he's doing. He knows how to get a good sound. And I think with the incorporation of the orchestration, if you will, of, the electronic elements with the melody lines, all of that put together, and, he had his hands in, and like advising them and stuff. It's extremely well done, so musicality and composition, when we're talking about, capability here, it's at an extremely high level. I think some of the choices were, not my favorite, but if you take that, subjective opinion out, and if we're just talking, looking at it, evaluating the musicality and composition, it's at an extremely, extremely high level, and they should be commended for that. We'll talk more about, when we get down to like favorite songs and stuff like that. We can, I'll do a deeper dive on the things that I do and I don't like, but yeah, overall, that's my takeaway of that particular element of the record.
Yeah, great points all around here. I don't think anything really sounds out of place. Yeah, there's the down tune tracks that are like, okay, this sounds like Dark Ride, but that notwithstanding, we got one thing that you don't really think about until you listen to it a lot, and because Jørn's so far out front and such a predominant force on this record. But like Jim mentioned, that the Helloweenisms, it happens several times. I think I noted it in my notes. I don't remember, but I think even in the first song, the verse is very Jørn. You're listening to what he's having to say, but in the background there's like these lofty twin guitar note type things going on in the background, and it sounds like Helloween, but it feels like you're flying. If you just were the way that it's produced, the way those guitar lines link up, they just have such a keen sense of melody, and the way it locks in, it gives it an uplifting, elevated. You feel elevated when you're listening to it, and it's all note placement, the scale, whatever the hell it is. It's just it happens throughout this album. It's just such a great technique that it might be overlooked if you only listen to this once or twice and you just pay attention to the vocals. There's great stuff happening in the background too, and when Jørn steps away from the mic for a minute, you can really hear that. Those heavy riffs, in Crystal Night and Soulburn. It's just, oh my God, it's just so heavy, head bangable, anthemic feeling, and they just know how to write a song from start to finish. Even if you don't like the caliber of the song or what they're trying to accomplish here, nothing sounds really wrong. They tuned down. They're using a 7-string guitar on this one. Still, it's a well-done song. It may not be sitting in your caliber of stuff you enjoy, but it is just well-considered, perfect professional musicians here. Production, we've already all kind of touched on this, so yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's clean. It's pristine. The vocals and the keyboards are front and center. But at the same time, when you kind of do dive in a little bit, you can still really hear what the whole band is doing, And I actually really like how each instrument sounds here for the most part. I mean, I think the guitars do carry a heavy sound when they need. I mean, to me, Crystal Night is a good example of that, because that does get down tuned, but not in the new metal way, I feel like. And whenever the guitar solos come in, it's great. And like even the more fast-paced tracks, like From Hell or whatever, where it's all a bit more thrashy, the guitar sounds perfect in there to me. And then I can hear the bass pretty good for the most part when the band's not like actually going on full tilt. But for the most part, like during the chorus and the verses of a lot of tracks, I can hear the bass plodding away, and they do utilize it as its own instrument from time to time, which I kind of appreciated. I will say I wish the drums maybe didn't sound quite as clean and pristine.
There's a clickiness to them. You could tell they're triggered.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's basically it.
They weren't doing anything. There wasn't so much gain over them. They didn't need to be tightened up that much. I don't think it could have been a drum. I don't know.
I think it takes away from me noticing like all the stuff that Callan you were mentioning, because you talking about the performance on Crystal Night. I want to put it back on and really dive into the drum performance there. And I think if the production was a bit less clean and the drums didn't sound as clicky and computerized kind of, it'd be easier to notice. So that would be my one nitpick with like the production. But I actually think that the symphonic elements, because typically a ding that I don't listen to enough power metal to fully say, but I feel like I would typically complain about the cheapness of like symphonic elements and the keyboard sounds and stuff. But it all sounds really professional and I don't know, well done. Like Soulburn is just a great example of them using the symphonic like string sounding elements, and it sounds like they're actually there to me. So as far as production, I feel like it has all the hallmarks of what you would want from a good or a great production for a power metal album. So I don't really know what else you would need from something like this. So good production.
Colin.
Yeah, like to reiterate the point, Logan, the only thing I have in my notes that bothered me was the drum work. In terms of the sound.
Yeah.
To me, it just sounds, to your point, Marty, tightened up a little bit. I want the drums to breathe a little bit more.
Yeah, there's room. There's room for them to breathe here in this mix, I think.
It's just there's something about it that just sounds to the point of, I don't want like clinical or sterile. It's just something about it feels a little bit too rigid. I don't like that was the drum sound to me when I was listening to it, and dedicating sort of some space for individual instruments. That's the only thing that bothered me about this record. I guess the major quality though is it does sound like big.
Huge.
The size of this record sounds large. So if you're being a sort of a modern production, it has enough sort of size to it where I think that to its credit, it feels like you could really sort of put this track out in a larger space and it would do incredibly well, or this album in a larger space would do incredibly well. So for all like the modern production, I think the strength of it does sound powerful.
Jim.
We already touched on Andy Sneap. He's love him or hate him, he's good at what he does. He's a great producer, and this album sounds really strong. It sounds big. I like the guitar sound on it. I like that I can hear the bass, almost all the time on any song here. The bass is there. The drums didn't really bother me. I hear what you guys are saying, about the kicks, but I guess it's because his performance to me is so controlled, but also like you still can hear his ability come through.
He's a great drummer. He really is a great drummer.
Exactly. He's just a great drummer. Like I didn't even really notice. And so I probably have to listen to headphones again to kind of see if it really bugged me, because usually that kind of thing does, but it didn't bug me. And maybe that's just a testament to his playing on this record. I just felt like he's one of the standout, contributors in the band, and he makes what they do so much better, even on like the weaker tracks, his choices. And to your point, Callan, his choices to hold back sometimes really add to the power of the song. Like just the tom hits and stuff he does in Crystal Angel and stuff like that. Like after the lead, when they come back into that main riff of the of the chorus, he's like, it's just really, really cool. Stands out. It's pure metal, man. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And the verse riff, I think it's a great, even though it's a slower tempo song, it still feels like power metal to me. So anyway, back to the production. Everything's great. Vocals are great. I think they're right where they should be for this style of metal. They should be up front. They should be out there. I the only thing I would nitpick a little bit is when the keys and the guitars were playing together. I would kind of like, I like when some of those moments, like I kind of wish, the vocals were pulled back a little bit and the keys and the guitars were louder, because I love their interplay so much, and when they're all three going at the same time, I do feel like the three of them together get a little buried. So I would have liked for some of that space for me to be filled more with the synth and the melody lines of the guitar when they're playing together. When they're doing something totally separate, or I don't really mind so much, but there's moments where they're kind of like following a similar melody line, and it's like I want to hear more of that. I want that to be kind of at the forefront. A very, very minor nitpick, though, in an otherwise perfect production, really. So,
yeah, I mean, the drums, the kick drums have a very triggered sound to them, but other than that, it's a very modern and full production that doesn't sound sterile. And that's a fine line to walk. You start getting super modern productions, things get a little too clean. Yeah, there's some cleanliness between instruments here, but if you're listening to it, you hear like the background singers, the layered kind of choir type stuff. They're low in the mix, but you can hear them. Nothing's stepped on. Everything has its place in the stereo spectrum. I think it's well done. I mean, we're not working with blast beats and high gain stuff here. There's a lot of room for this music to breathe. Sneap modernizes the sound in a way that's organic, and I think other than the drum sound, and I think that it's just complete success. Let's talk about least favorite songs. Logan.
All right. Since I think on something like this, the least favorite might be more fun to talk about, I'm going to open up with that. Definitely already got Spirit Never Dies out of the way. I begrudgingly, I just don't think it's a great opening track for what this album has to offer. Definitely not in the lyric, writing section, which it sounds like they write good lyrics. That one, I'll have to pay attention to Crystal Night. That's about an actual historical event during leading up to World War II.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. That's cool metal songwriting, or lyric writing. My other least favorite tracks, definitely the ballads. I can't do it. They're too sappy. They both open up with this acoustic guitar, just like, frat bro at the party, just
the guy at every party with a guitar, like, oh hey, I got a guitar, oh great,
Wonderwall.
Listen up, ladies.
I have a soft side. And I just can't. I mean, like, vocally they're impressive. Vocally they're good. And I think especially Into the Light is the better of the two. It's vocally a good song, but it's a ballad, and I don't think it's necessarily has the payoff. The closing song definitely doesn't have the payoff.
No, that's a bad song to end the album on.
When love
That's a complaint.
comes close. Let me read some other lyrics to you, actually, because this is another perfect example of the top-notch lyricism from this rock star. Let's see. Looked into the mirror, I was hypnotized. There was a different man staring back into my eyes. Went to the doctor, but he could not see. Only the love of a woman would be medicine for me. And how he says, I went to the doctor.
William Butler Yeats.
The doctor was like, I don't know. Maybe it's English isn't the first language.
Well, it's not, but doesn't mean it's bad. But yeah, that's bad.
It is.
That's bad
for me. It doesn't work. It's not a great song to end the album on, unfortunately. And I will actually agree that Bleeding Eyes is not necessarily a good track. On my first spin or two, that was one of the songs I was like, I think I might like this because of the down-tuned guitar. But now it just sounds like a Tool song when I hear it. Like the structure of it and how they wrote it, it does make me think of it is the most new metal-ish of all the songs. Now to get to the good stuff, man, Enlighten Me actually wore me down. That song, I like the chorus. I like the
Oh, it's great.
I like the chorus. I like how
Agreed.
he speaks "Enlighten me" before it opens up. Like
They did that big scream
that's
after
so
a huge scream after he says "Enlighten me." Then he does the scream at the end of it. Oh, so good.
It is
Good.
And
The Predator whispering into your ear.
I'll have some candy, yeah. And so that song is part of what wore me down with this album. And then the two main ones I want to highlight would definitely have to be Crystal Night. I think that actually is my favorite track on the album. Initially, I was going to say it was Soulburn, but that's it. I keep noticing more with Crystal Night every single time I listen to it. And the best guitar riff on the whole album is halfway through that song. There's just the down-tuned guitar. It's like a tempo change, and it slows the song down and kind of carries it out on this more epic note. I love it. So Crystal Night's a great song, and Soulburn, absolutely great representation of how they can use, like how Masterplan can use their symphonic influences to just write a great creative track, which I think is relatively unique because it is slow, but man, does it pack a emotional punch. So yeah, great. Some definitely great songs on here.
All right. Cullen.
Okay. So I will say the first two songs purely based on the lyrical content alone.
So if it had different lyrics, you'd like the song.
Yeah, 100%. There's nothing wrong with the song other than it is so challenging. And like for me, just to clear it, like though that's the part of this record that is the hardest. It's not the ballads, it's not the closing song, it's not the frat brother with the acoustic guitar. It is the lyrical sort of sadness that I feel. Like if I met how do I have to say this? If Masterplan, so if Spirit Never Die was like Marty's friend and we showed up at a party and he like introduced me to Spirit Never Die, I would be like, Marty, I don't know you. Like I would question like if I trusted you as a person based on your desires to be a friend with this song. Like there'd be some deep like or you would change so much that like the fact that you brought Spirit Never Die to the party is like a glimpse into your past that I was like, man, he's changed so much. Why are you still hanging out with Spirit Never Die? Like
so positive.
Clearly you're not this person anymore. That's how I feel.
Wow.
About that song.
Wow.
This is the biggest burn I've ever heard.
It is just like there was this part of me that just felt like bad for you.
He's my designated driver. Come on.
Yeah.
Some might say a soul burn.
Yeah. A glimpse into someone's life that you just feel like, man, I don't know them. And I need to revisit our friendship because this is going to expose itself down the road. And Spirit Never Die, the part of Marty that loves this song is going to rear its ugly head. I'll be stranded in the middle
Part
of
the reason why I picked it for this show. Part of the reason I picked for the show. The song rules. You guys are wrong.
Okay. Anyway, if I've made
no more polls. I'm done with polls.
My feelings about that. Now, okay. Yes, Kind-Hearted Light.
Great song. Holy crap.
Great song. And I actually will disagree with Jim a little bit. There's a way, Marty talked about the differences in how they use the keys to sort of intertwine with sort of guitar riffs and guitar leads. I like that. I think it's an interesting way to sort of build a melody. And I think both Sail On and Kind-Hearted Light share that characteristic. Crystal Night, I talked about the song at length. Soulburn, for me, like the middle of this record, the meat of this record, outside of the edges here, I really enjoy that track as well. And I had the exact same, I think, Marty, you had showed me this record, like in a whatever backstage at some point in time. And you talked about
trying to get you into my van.
Trying to get you, yes. But
candy?
I think you talked about Jørn and Dio within this context.
Yeah.
Like, he's a great vocalist, and as soon as I heard him not only playing in sort of this blues space as a vocalist, but one of the favorite parts about Stargazer is how much at the end of that track where he just completely is off the rails,
vamping,
grabs the heart, like the heart of that song by its throat, and he's completely like in control of it. I feel there's that same personality trait. I can understand why they are reaching out to hit Jørn as a vocalist to do the Dio thing. I think he has that sort of confidence, and I feel that on that track.
Yeah.
So that sort of concentration of songs to the middle of this record is probably my favorite part. And as much as the opening track, and I tried to make a comment that Enlighten Me feels a little bit too close to like Linkin Park. In terms of like its radio airplayness.
Thankfully, I've never heard Linkin Park, so I don't care. But
yeah. Well, if you don't need to, because you can listen to Enlighten Me. So
yeah.
But anyway, the rest of those songs in the middle of this record, I think, are actually pretty awesome.
All right, Jim.
So yeah, I'm not sure I want to approach fun and talk the good first or the bad first. Maybe we'll get the bad first out of the way. We'll end on the positive note. So, yeah, obviously, Enlighten Me is just a terrible song, man. The cheesy pop rock chorus. I can't handle it.
I love it.
It drives me batty.
Me and Logan.
Spirit Never Dies. What bothers me about that, I love the music in that song.
Right.
Like Enlighten Me, I think it's just bad all the way around, musically, lyrically, vocally, everything. But Spirit Never Dies, like if those lyrics weren't in there, I would like it a lot more. And like I said, I actually got used to the line after a while. Like now, like I just laugh. I'm like kind of waiting for that line to come on. I got a fast car like a rock star. Yeah, but it doesn't really have a place on the record, though, from a serious standpoint. So obviously, we know those aren't good, but I think that, an equally bad choice. I think that the second worst song out of, besides Enlighten Me, isn't Spirit Never Dies, but it is that last ballad, man. When Love Comes Close, dude, that is glam metal. All the way, it is. I mean, there's actually
ended on that too. What the hell
they ended it on that? It just
put it in the middle.
It just completely like pops the balloon, and it takes you out of the vibe of the record. It's just super weak. The line, "I went for miles in the pouring rain." Oh, we've never heard that in a Firehouse track or whatever. I
meant to mention it makes me think of Home Sweet Home.
Yeah, Bullet Boys flashbacks going on. I mean, like, what's happening here? You didn't just say that. Broken hearts can always mend. That's in the song, man. I mean, dude, come on. You can really do better than that. You know what I mean? And the fact that that's at the end, it's a ballad, it's a bad ballad, it's a glam metal ballad, and it's the last song of the record. It's just. It was a really, really terrible choice all the way around on their part. Good news now. Chris and I, we've talked about it length. Man, that is just an amazing song. It's such just a strong riff. The greatest vocal up to that point on the record is the fourth track. Kind-Hearted Light. That song actually, that's a line, like I said, I can get behind. We held up the metal torch. Hey, man, now that's what I'm talking about. Now that is not just power metal, but just pure metal in general.
He likes it cheesy that way, not the other way.
I can take that cheese when it's in service to metal, but when it's in service to rock and roll or my acoustic, sad guy, listen to me, baby, playing guitar, that I can't get into. So that song, really feels like it rights the ship after the first two tracks, and then you're like, okay, this is what Masterplan was capable of. This is what they're going to deliver. It's really great. His Jørn's Dio-isms are very strong on this record. So vocally, it just feels tough. The riffs are metal. And the keys are neoclassical. There's none of that prior pop stuff that you heard on the first 2 tracks. So Kind-Hearted Light, really love that song. Obviously Crystal Night too. My Crawling from Hell, again, super heavy, great double bass playing on there. And one other song I got to call out too that is Heroes, and that's the one. Was it Kiska does the backing vocals on?
Yeah, they kind of split the lyrics up.
Yeah, it is a straight Helloween track, but damn it, that's why it's so good. like that's
it's even more of a burn to Helloween too, because they got Kiska to come on there. Yeah.
I'm
what were you gonna say, Kellen?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Jim, but I was just going to say, is Heroes actually, like, that song sounds very familiar. So I don't know, is it an actual, that someone else had written that song before, or is it, no, okay.
I mean, there's actually the line, the master plans rising, send freedom all over the globe. I mean, like spelled like they are I think it is their song. I could be wrong though. Yeah. Someone in the chat, if I'm wrong, please tell me. I think it's theirs, but
it is. Pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah. It's to me, it's like pure Helloween. It's great melody line on that chorus. I also like that it's shortened to the point. It's a very short track. I like that it gets in and out. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, the closer is like the second worst song. Enlighten Me is really bad. I will give Masterplan some ballad credit though. Into the Light, like that one, I was okay with that one, man.
That's a pseudo ballad though. It doesn't.
It gets power metally. It has a powerful chorus. There's power all over that one. You know what I mean? So that one I can get behind. Into the Light, not bad, but we can all just forget about When Love Comes Close.
Yeah. All right. Well, the bad for me is When Love Comes Close. It's hinting at a ballad. It is kind of a ballad. Doesn't fully commit. It's, if they put this song anywhere else on the album, whatever came before it and after it, I think it'd be easy to forget it. But they're leaving you with this statement. This is like, we're ending our album with this one. This is what's taking us out. Man, bad choice. Absolutely bad choice. My favorites. Oh boy. Get back here. I got notes. Crystal Night. Heaviest song on the album for me. Expertly written. Definitely my favorite song. Heavy riffs. Overall dark vibe cast due to the lyrics. Kind of a cautionary tale thing. Pointing back to history. The Crystal Knock. The synths elevate the atmosphere on here. The floating, I mentioned earlier that when they go up in the higher register on the guitar and they do that locked in, it's got a floating feeling to it. Adds an energy and aggression that you might not really notice unless you listen past Jørn's vocals. He's downright amazing on this track. It's his most Dio-inspired performance on the album. The song flows with certainty and the structure is flawless and interesting. Soulburn, God, love this song. Another favorite track. You got they kind of change it up here. It isn't really a synth tone. They have like a piano sound. Starts the song off. The song gets more symphonic. The synth tone as the song unfolds. Very soulful vocal performance. Again, amazing. Emotional chorus, layered vocal choir added in the background for depth. Again, it's mixed just right. You can hardly, unless you really listen to it. Heroes, another favorite. There's a very lighthearted nature to this song. It's the most power metal vibe. It sounds like a Helloween song. You add Michael Kiske, which is funny because I've owned this album forever. And I've never noticed. Parker, my son's like, oh, Kiska's singing on that one song on that Masterplan. I'm like, what? Had to go back and listen. And this was when he was mad at metal era. This was I'm mad at metal era. And they asked him to do it. He come in and do it. And he's not really shining out. He's just doing it. He's playing it really safe. But and he's actually kind of matching Jørn a little bit on here. So when they alternate, it's like there isn't a huge difference. But listening to it again this week, I'm like, oh, it's so clearly him. How did I never pick that out? But with him and Jørn doing the duet on here, the trading back, it's a wonderful vocal union that gives this song a very joyful quality. Into the Light, I love it. Simplistic, though very emotional song. It's kind of a pseudo ballad. Jørn cleans up his voice on this one for a smoother croon. His performance on the chorus is layered and soaring, the highest register on the album. This when that chorus kicks in, it's just step into the light thing. It's like, oh, you're clutching, like, oh yeah, I'm there. And let's get to, I love Spirit Never Dies. I think it's an excellent lead-off track, lyrics notwithstanding. Obviously, those are not great. There's some heavy moments on here. The soaring, layered Helloween riffs in the pre-chorus gives a feeling of elevation on it. And it's a very, the never give up, never give in. It's like roll your eyes positive. It's like my heathen guts hates that. I don't like being told to, cheer up, buckaroo type of shit. I hate that, but older I get, I can appreciate it. Jørn, he proves immediately that he's out to share an incredible performance on this album because hate the lyrics. Man, he's doing some awesome stuff with his voice. It's just amazing. Enlighten Me, another favorite. Atypical synth use gives this track a feeling outside of power metal, which is fine. I like the way they use the instrument on the whole album, to be honest with you. There's a serpentine verse riff in the vocal placement. It's kind of swarthy a little bit. It's kind of cool. It's a great chorus after that crunchy serpentine feeling thing. Vocals are very bluesy, gritty, and so endlessly powerful and emotional. I love it. Kind-Hearted Light, another favorite. Synth layering, more effective on here. It sells simplistic hooks with melody. They get some mileage out of the synth on this album. And I think it's a cool way they used it. The track has that Man-O-War feeling I mentioned earlier when the guitars are stripped away and Jørn sings solely with the drum beat. Very cool. Has an anthemic feel. Perfectly fits the pro metal lyrics here for sure. But yeah, I've got really zero Sail On. Great song. Crawling from Hell. That's heavy banger on that one, on this album. The most power metal feeling due to the double bass. They actually turned out the double bass on here. And this is towards the end of the album too. So you're getting that shot of double bass towards the end to kind of propel you to the end just in time for that crappy When Love Comes Close. Oh my God, guys, what the hell were you thinking? But yeah, Judgment, final thoughts. Logan.
Well done, Marty. You've picked a cheesy power metal album and it worked. It works. It's got all the tropes that I would claim, or that I still will claim to not like with power metal. It's got ballads. Does have some predictability in like the songwriting choices for some of the songs. Some of the other some tracks aren't predictable, but I would say 50% kind of are a little bit. It's like a bit on the longer side, and it's very uplifting overall, but I found myself liking all these tropes towards the end of the listening experience. That's going on a motivational poster for sure. I'm gonna end up on the wall back there.
The statement rings true no matter who's saying it.
that could go in an HR office for sure. But yeah, I definitely ended up enjoying probably a little bit over half of this album. I really, really liked. Maybe about 20%. I'm like, yeah, that's good. And then the rest is the tracks that I definitely did not like, that rubbed me the wrong way. But the important part is I'm moving closer towards liking power metal. The ball did move closer towards, I could get this. I could understand this. I could like this. I'm ready to ask you for a Helloween recommendation after this, for example. So that wouldn't have happened without you mentioning Masterplan or bringing it up to Album Club. So I think that's a win. I'll work on finding a negative album to hate on in a future episode. This one is I still ended up liking it, and I think I probably will revisit some of the tracks on here for sure. Honestly, time will tell. I think that's the ultimate test for these album clubs. Like during the week that you have to listen to it, of course you're going to listen to it, and you're objectively and a little subjectively going to try to like it. But will you return to it in the coming, months?
Yeah, that's
And
a time to tell on those.
That's the test. So we'll see if this ends back up in my, ear holes as the months go on. But overall, I ended up liking it, and I think I'm going to give this a light 7 for me, and that much closer to getting into power metal. So as I said, well done, Marty.
All right, Kellen.
I think it's probably the most AOR focused power metal record I've listened to. And what's interesting is like I have only had glimpses into this when I was listening to. I love Gamma Ray's Land of the Free, but there's a couple of tracks there where I'm like, hey, this is a little bit different. So I've had like glimpses of that influence within the European power metal scene. Here, I feel is probably most crystallized versus most of the records I've listened to. And there's a segment of this genre where I think this is actually seen as like a hallmark within that style. Like this might be an epitome if you like your power metal focused in this way. And I've seen like it incredibly well reviewed and well received, all sorts of different places, not just on Metal Archives, but like people putting it on like a top of, a power metal record, recommendation. So I think it's more about like my preferences in the style than it is the quality of the record. And if you're into European power metal more specifically, I think this is a part of the sort of culture and subgenre. And I think like that's the worst thing I can say about this record, because the best thing I can say about it is when this album is really like kicking at full steam, there's some great songwriting going on here and a very talented vocalist. So it's not my preference for what European power metal has to offer, or even what like some of the more power prog of like the 90s and early 2000s that I kind of have come across. But if you're a connoisseur of this genre, for all intents and purposes, I think you probably should need to give this a listen.
Right on, Jim.
Yeah. And back to your thing, Logan, as a non-power metal guy, I would recommend, I kind of agree with Maze, just start with the first Walls of Jericho, first Helloween, and then get into Keeper of Seven Keys Part 1. But I think you're going to see them at their heaviest with their debut. It'll get you ready
More
for what
speed metal.
It's more speed metal. And then Keeper of Seven Keys, they become power metal, and it's who they are. And I think it's an incredibly great, it's a freaking masterpiece. That album's, and Part 2, they're both great, but might as well just go in order with those, and I think you'll dig them, my opinion. So yeah, this is a tough one for me to rate, man. I've been thinking about it literally all day. Like, where am I going to put this? Because what I struggle with is like the songs I like on this, I really like, man. I really love Crystal Night, Kind Hearted Light, and Crawling from Hell, and Heroes. I mean, those are just all just really great songs. They're just bruisers, man. So, and then there's things that I just could be fine with never hearing again, like Enlighten Me and, When Love Comes Close. Like, I don't need to ever hear those songs again. So where do I put something like that has some really strong songs, I think, that are emblematic of power metal and how great it can be. And then some things that I think, outside of the riffs and the drums are barely metal. So I'm having trouble with it. So I'm gonna have to give it like a kind of a schizo rating, because I'm kind of schizo in my view of it. So, it's somewhere between like a 6.5 and a 7.5. You know what I mean? So I guess I just call it a 7. Just like you, Logan. Because there's some serious missteps on this record, but there's also some moments of brilliance, man. And definitely a very steady, super strong performance from all the players throughout, even on the bad songs. So yeah, I think I have to give it a 7. I definitely won't give it anything higher than that, because those missteps are large. If I can't listen to 2 of the songs on the record at all, then that's as much as it's going to go. But I think it's a testament to how good it is when it is good. I think that I can still give it a 7, even though there's 2 tracks on here I don't ever want to hear again. So I would say if you're a power metal fan, I don't think you're going to be bothered by the AOR or alternative metal elements that find their way into here, or at least you'll be bothered by them a lot less. I think if you're new to power metal, I think you should do like Logan's doing and start with Helloween's debut and work your way up. And as you're going through that discography, or Blind Guardian, same way, speed metal at first and slowly got more power metal. Listening to those bands and working your way up is going to get you ready for Masterplan, but I definitely I don't think this is for a newbie. The Velveeta on some of the songs may be too much to digest.
And honestly, Logan, if you're liking Storm Warrior, I mean, Storm Warrior kind of started out as a Helloween tribute band. You listen to the first Storm Warrior album,
Really?
it sounds like Walls of Jericho, and Kai Hansen produced it and sings on some of it. So that is probably where if you've never heard Walls of Jericho, definitely the song, the lead off
I've heard
track,
Keepers, but not Walls of Jericho.
the first song, Ride the Sky, is the poster child of awesome speed / power. It's so amazing. Great. It basically sums up Germany in one song. It's so great. But anyway, for me, in closing, again, I just said it in the comments, I'll never begrudge anybody for not liking power metal. I get it. I've been there. Maybe it just took a little maturity, a little age, a little getting beat down by negativity all the fucking time. It's nice to, when I was younger and, too cult for whatever, there's no way. I laughed at bands like Lost Horizon, and this is crap. This is completely, I don't need somebody telling me to put my chin up type stuff. But you get to a certain age and it's like a wealth. If you get past it, you come to a place of peace with the cheese, man, it unlocks a whole nother realm, a whole nother genre, subgenre of metal that's fantastic. Listen to the new Twilight Force record. That's like Emperor. It's like a symphonic power metal version of Emperor. It's amazing. It's great. But anyway, as far as this album goes, there's a definite AOR vibe. And if you like that, I would also recommend you check out the first Unisonic album. It's a very AOR, and that's got Michael Kiske on vocals and Kai Hansen on guitar and some of the guys from Pink Cream 69. It's great. Their second album sounds like Keepers of the Seven Keys Part 3. They got a little more speed metal-y as they went. But yeah, this album to me is fantastic. I just absolutely adore the vocal performance. I think Jørn Lande is an absolute treasure of a singer. He ranks up there with Dio. He ranks up there with Coverdale. He's an atypical power metal gem, and that alone sells it. Roland is Roland and Uli are both. I mean, Uli Kusch, he wrote the song Revelation on Better Than Raw, and that's the most aggressive song on the album. Rhythmically strange and just excellent. And those two together, they're just a great union. And though they did something different with that union on this album, I think it works. It's on the commercial side. It's just so well written and catchy with an amazing singer. I mean, check out anybody that's not convinced, listen to the song Crystal Night. And at least, I mean, the guy sounds like he's channeling the spirit of Ronnie James Dio. So absolutely fantastic. This is a 9 out of 10 album for me. The last song really kind of sinks the ship a bit. They end on a lame fart. It's just not, it was not the place for that song. The song on its own, it's ballad-esque. It's really kind of, but is it a horrible song? It's well constructed, all that stuff, but it would have been better suited earlier in the album, if at all. But yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's fantastic, and I thank you all for checking out the record this week. Obviously, that's what we do here, but it's been cool on the Discord server. Everybody's been talking very favorably about it, and Kellen's right. The universal consensus is this is fantastic. But anyway, that's it. We got through it, and I don't know who's picking next week. Does anybody know? Is it Kellen?
I can go.
All
right. We've talked about this band several times, more specifically Jim and I, and I'm really hoping that a TJ shows up and doesn't nap through album club next week because I think he'd enjoy this. But this is going to be a kind of like a home cooking for me, just comfort food. This is Evoken's Hypnagogia.
Ah,
Oh yes,
they're getting ready to put out a new album this coming year.
So I'm kind of getting excited.
Look at Jim.
Kind of getting
What
excited.
the hell is this crap? Why doesn't mine do that? I want to do
I
that
don't
too.
know. It just does it sometimes when I do it. It doesn't do it every
has
time.
very special powers. Yes.
Damn it. All right, cool. That's a great pick.
Great pick, Colin.
Kellen and Logan are going to be part of, speaking of Jeff, who's in the chat right now, Gas Mask and Hand Grenades. Saturday night, I don't know what time it starts, but they're doing his massive year-end spectacular. It's going to be like rollerball over there. They're going to have a ton of guests from Europe, and it's going to be in waves. You guys want to talk a little bit more about what's going on over at Gas Mask and Hand Grenades since you're both part of it?
Yeah,
Sure. Go ahead.
it's gonna be 8 Eastern, and gonna start East Coast guys, then go to West Coast, and then he's got some people from overseas popping in. I guess the goal is to show 24 albums, but I'll probably be showing like 20 or something, and I'll let Kellen fill in. But it should be good fun for sure.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, given the number of people involved and kind of rolling in and out, I'll probably be kind of loose. But the goal is to do 24 in the year 24. So
yep,
I've got 24 records to talk about, and I think he'll kind of be as part of the East Coast crew. I'll be there to start, but as we venture towards the West Coast, and I think Peter and Roger and a couple Europeans will show up, and I know there's band members involved, so strong crew. I think where we go between 10 to 15. Yep. So it'll be a good time. It'll be a great hangout if you want to kind of spend an evening, probably go a little bit into the morning. So depending, at least for me as an East Coaster, but anyone on the West Coast, like you'll be able to join later on and kind of hang out. So
absolutely, definitely go check that out. Anybody have anything coming up on their channels that you want to report before moving forward?
Well, this is me an opportunity to plug the Metal Tag video that just happened last night. So here we go. Trying to throw it back at you. Anything? I think you and Alan sat down for about an hour or so talking about 20 questions.
Yep, we did Metal Tag 2025 last night. Good turnout, 104 people. And I hope people go out and do it again. Questions are in the description of that video. Please go and do your own video. A lot of fun. And tomorrow, Friday night, Daniel Eckeroth, who wrote the author of the book, a Swedish death metal book, will be joining us. We'll be talking about him a little bit, interviewing him about his books and stuff, his writing, and then we'll be talking about French metal. So we're going to be talking about metal from France. That'll be a fun conversation. And what else am I supposed to say? Oh, the Discord server, Heavy Metallurgy Discord server. We got over 100 people in there, and it's fun. It's been a really cool community. All you folks here in the chat are moving on over to there and talking. It's a lot of fun. But yep, go check that out. Links in the description. Links to all these guys' pages are there. Please go click on their YouTube and subscribe. Go to iWaz Recordings and buy some tapes and stuff. That would make Jim very happy. And I guess that's it. Happy New Year. We will see you next week for Evoken. And that's that. TJ, I'm sure, will not be tired when that happens. He'll be here for that. But yeah, anyway. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you Friday.